England's leading Catholic Cardinal Vincent Nichols resists call to resign after damning report, which is the IICSA, which is the IICSA report, Independent Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse, set up by the former Prime Minister Theresa May, found he prioritised reputation of the church over children who were sexually abused by priests. Today is November the 12th. England's leading Catholic cardinal is refusing to resign despite an inquiry finding he prioritised the reputation of the church before children who were sexually abused by priests. Vincent, the Archbishop of Westminster Diocese, that means that he's the main person in England who basically has been appointed by one of the popes to have that position. He overlooks all of the Catholic souls in England, said he recently offered his resignation to the Pope on account of his age, but nothing else, and the Pope told him to stay. It comes as the Independent Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse report into the Catholic Church published on Tuesday found Cardinal Nichols seemingly put the reputation of the Church above his duty to sex assault victims. Now, this is sort of true. I've seen letters which he has sent sexual abuse victims who, when they have won their court case in 2006, the guy called RHA6, who won in 2006, wrote to Vincent Nichols, and Vincent Nichols sent him a letter saying, not that I'm sorry that you've been abused or that the church has let you down, but that I'm sorry that you feel that way, it therefore negating any responsibility. It added that he had demonstrated no acknowledgement of any personal responsibility to lead or influence change. This is not something that only Vincent Nichols has done. It's all past persons in top hierarchical positions. The report findings were met with calls for Cardinal Nichols to resign, something he says he will refuse to do. He said, I was 75 recently, a few weeks ago. Happy birthday, mate. As according to the law of the church, I sent my resignation into Pope Francis, and I received a very unequivocal reply, and that is that it tells me to stay in office. So that is what I will do. That is where my orders come from. I'm staying. Well, I thought your orders came from Jesus. I thought they came from God. I thought they came from Christ. And I'm quite sure in the Bible it does actually say, well, I recall actually Jesus saying, don't harm children, don't build temples in my name. And the Catholic Church has built temples in its name, and they've also been raping children in the name of Christ as well. Asked if he was the right person to lead the Catholic Church in England and Wales despite the report's findings, Cardinal Nichols said, I do what I'm told. The Holy Father put me here and he tells me to stay here. That's enough for me. Well, that's basically what people in the Second World War did in concentration camps. They said, well, I'm following orders, so therefore I'll just go and gas some Jews because, I've got nothing else to do on a Saturday night. And then if I get put into a tribunal in The Hague or an international judge or an international trial, I'll just say that I'm following orders. One of the things about spirituality that these people, these priests, these Catholic Church people, they all negate, they all don't understand is part of spirituality is taking responsibility. It's also about intelligence and thinking and having gumption. Gumption is something where you take the initiative. It's not where you delete responsibility from your life because you follow orders. And any leader, I would never follow a leader who negated responsibility because he was following orders. I would want someone that's an independent thinker. And so for that case, I think that he's a very bad leader. Now, Richard Scorer wrote a book. This is the book. You can see his name at the bottom. I suggest you buy it if you want to know about the Catholic Church and its disgusting behaviour. Representing survivors said this is an absolute damning report. Now, I want to go and look at a letter which has been issued by victims of sexual abuse and by Richard Scorer's office. And it says, an open letter to the Catholic Church from victims and survivors of clerical abuse following publication of IICSA report into the Catholic Church on 10th November 2020. We want to thank IICSA for its report in the Catholic Church. We welcome its findings. We highlighting the Church's gross failings to protect children and others from abuse. We're grateful that the inquiry has exposed the Church's treatment of victims and survivors when it comes to reparation and care. The report clearly shows the Church's lack of willingness and ability to change of its own accord. There should be no comments or crocodile tears from church hierarchy saying this inquiry report is a wake-up call. The Catholic Church has been here before with the Nolan report in 2001 and the Cumberley report in 2007, both followed by broken promises and shocking inertia. Now, I want to take you back to the 2006 civil damages in 2006, when David Pearce, because it wasn't a criminal, it was a civil. So although you win the civil, it doesn't mean that you go to prison. It just means that you get a payout in compensation. David Pearce, after he was found guilty to have abused the boy on various occasions, was allowed back into the monastery, and then he re-abused another boy a year and a half later. These offences that went on at especially St. Benedict's School have been monitored from 1972, and there are some cases which seem to go back to the 60s, if not the 50s. And what had happened is that boys had come to their parents, and the parents, like the priests, had put the church in front of their children's protection. The parents had been so brainwashed that they preferred to allow the child to be abused rather than to attack the church. And some of these parents, they were from very rich upbringings, from very good schools. Like some of the mothers came from St. Mary's Ascot, which is the leading girls' Catholic school. And this girl from St. Mary's Ascot allowed her child to be sexually abused by David Pearce at St. Benedict's School. Some of the priests and the monks and the abbots had paid the boys and the boys' mother to be quiet, and they had made them sign contracts, and then they had allowed those priests to carry on working and to abuse more boys. Colossal amounts of charitable status, church wealth, have been used to employ lawyers and insurance companies to fight civil claims and to overpower victims and survivors with tactics to put us off pursuing cases or speaking out, exploiting any legal loopholes they can. I want to take you back to the 2006 civil damages court case. Now, the abusee, his court case fees were £70,000 plus. He had one barrister and one lawyer. The David Pearce, he had one barrister and two lawyers. Now, those court case fees probably came to much more in excess of 100,000. So you're talking about 170,000 pounds in 2006, which is probably easily over 200,000 pounds now. The payout was 46,000. So in order to get 46,000 pounds compensation in 2006, you had to spend 200,000 pounds in lawyers' fees. What also happened in this court case is that St. Benedict's withheld evidence. They made the abuse victim go to see a psychologist, and they said that he had a narcissistic personality disorder. They did everything they possibly could to demean the abuse victim, to put him through the court systems, to put him through psychiatrists. Where does that money come from? That money comes from the school. So the parents at St. Benedict's that send their children to the school, that pay large amounts of school fees, that money is used by the Abbey through various different means to pay for court cases, to pay for insurance, to pay for barristers and to pay for lawyers in order to protect themselves against abusees, boys that have been abused, that they, St. Benedict's, know have been abused, because they know the person that they're protecting is a paedophile. That is how disgusting these people are. Every effort has been going into protecting the reputation of the church, its resources, and focusing providing care and support for our abusers while neglecting us, the victims and survivors. So David Pearce, again, the person that abused RHA6 in 2006, David Pearce is looked after by the monastery. Now, David Pearce was put into prison for a fairly long time. Pearce was put into prison in November 2008 with 24 counts of indecent assault, sexual touching, gross indecency with 6 boys under 16. relating to incidents before and after 2003. He pleaded guilty at Isleworth Crown Court to offences going back to 1972. He was jailed for 8 years in October 2009, subsequently reduced to 5 years. Okay, so for abusing 24 counts, so for 24 counts of sexual abuse and rape with 6 boys, you get 5 years in prison. So you get what, 9 months for each boy. However, David Pearce, he was abusing about 15 children a year, because he was taking them to the school swimming pool, and he used to stick his hands down all those children's trousers. So every week he would abuse 5 boys, and each week it would probably be the same boy. So you could say that each year there were about 15 different boys, and you could say that there was about, I don't know, 30, 40 counts of sexual abuse, and he was doing this over 10 years. So there's about 200 boys which have been sexually abused, and only 5 boys have come forward, because that's how difficult it is to do this stuff. Every effort has been going into protecting the reputation of the church, its resources, and focusing on providing care and support for abusers, while neglecting us, the victims and survivors. What they also do is they program the parents to support the church, not the children. As I said, girls from St Mary's Ascot, the most elite girls Catholic school in the UK, has its students protecting the Catholic Church rather than their children. So many lives have been ruined and tragically ended, not just because of horrendous sexual, physical, psychological and spiritual abuse, but by appalling cover-ups and a lack of action to protect us and others in the church's care. So what happened at St Benedict's is that they withheld documents referring to X, Y and Z, and they also made videos disappear that then reappeared much later on after the court case. Downside School went and burnt a load of files of sexual abuse victims as well. While we recognise some changes and improving attitudes in a few years of the church, they do not go far enough. We very much hope that IICSA will be hard-hitting in its final report when making more specific recommendations. We believe there is clear evidence that there must be mandatory safeguarding reporting laws and an independent body to be made responsible for the oversight of safeguarding. Without this, there is little hope of meaningful change when the church has repeatedly failed to regulate itself, with catastrophic consequences for so many. There must be an end to the damage still caused by a dysfunctional church with poor leadership and legal barricades that keep victims and survivors at arm's length. The immense harm the church continues to inflict shows a complete lack of Christian values by which the church publicly claims to live by. Christian values in the Catholic Church are completely two different things. Christian values come from Christ. The church comes from dogma and the Pope, which they claim is imbued by the teachings of Christ, but there is no proof for that. The Pope is the 13th apostle. Jesus never gave anyone permission to be the 13th apostle, and he never gave anyone permission to be the Pope. The Catholic Church is not interested in Christian values. The Catholic Church uses Christian values as a face in order to keep control over people, to keep control over their minds, to keep control over their souls, because the church is a propaganda machine. It's a control mechanism. It's for mind control. And the people, that's why parents that have gone to schools like St Mary's Ascot and people that have gone to Downside School, when members of their own family are sexually abused, they don't support their family, they support the abusers. And sometimes they even say that members of their own family wanted to be abused. For many of us were children when we were abused. For many of us, our abusers have now died. Indeed, in St Benedict's School, Ealing, apparently the monks' graveyard is quite filled up with paedophiles. So I've heard one sexual abuse victim say. But we have the rest of our lives to live. Once you've been sexually abused, you don't really have a life to live. I mean, I disagree with that. I think that you're just alive, but you're not really living. So I don't know if I agree with that. Carrying the damage and injury done to us. We are not here to be assigned to history and an inconvenient past that can be swept under the carpet. We are part of the future. Well, I don't think that there is a future for the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has to go. The Catholic Church has to be separated absolutely and completely from children, and it should be a criminal offence to make any child follow a parent's religion, because it's abuse. It's psychological abuse. Every child should have a right to define themselves and find their own religion. You, as a parent, shouldn't have the authority to give your children what you believe. It's highly ignorant and it's highly arrogant that you think that your thoughts and beliefs are better than other thoughts and beliefs, and you should be followed by your child because it makes your ego better. It makes your beliefs more solidified because you've managed to make one more person believe in what you believe. I think that is actually I think any parent that sends their children to a Catholic school or any religious school is extremely ignorant and arrogant person, taking away authority and free will from their child, when in fact you want your child to have authority and free will. And those schools do not teach that. They actually de-educate you, not educate you. Nothing will cause us more despair than to be hearing more of the same. With a future inquiry a few years from now, this is not a time to read and reflect. It is an unconditional demand for change. The Catholic Church isn't going to change. I don't think that, you can ask for change. You can't ask a leopard to change its spots. The Catholic Church, it cannot change because it is built on dogma. It is built on deontology. It is built on objective truth. Those objective truths are truths from God. They are not subjective or localized truths that humans make. And if the Catholic Church changes, it means that either it misinterpreted God's word or God is not correct. And so any change that the church makes is going to deplete the authority of the church. And because the church is all about control and authority, it cannot change. So the church is in a catch-22 position. The only solution to this is to absolutely sideline the church from any education and any spirituality. And people, if they wish to go to the church, have to do so as an adult, not as a child, because the church depends on its money, on its income, and on its survival from children. Because it's as children you can brainwash them or you can sexually abuse them. This is by change.org. Cardinal Vincent Nichols needs to immediately resign. There's no point him resigning. There's no point. If you look at St. Benedict's Abbey, you've got through 3 different abbots. You've got through Soper, Shipley, and now you're on the new one. They're all the same. You cut the grass, it grows back. It's better to keep Vincent Nichols and to ridicule him than it is to put a new person there that's going to do the same thing that you can't ridicule because he hasn't done anything wrong. Keep Vincent Nichols there. Laugh at him, ridicule him, say he has no power. But I don't see the point of him resigning. It's better that he's attacked. Because you can't attack somebody that hasn't done anything. And that's what the Catholic Church is about. The Catholic Church isn't about individuality. The Catholic Church is an institution. These people are just manifestations of the institution. Like a blade of grass is just a manifestation of a root that has many blades of grass. If you cut or kill one blade of grass, the grass exists in a different place. If you go and kill or get rid of Vincent Nichols, he'll be replaced by someone else who will have the same mentality, because the people that are chosen are the people that have the same mentality. If you want to choose someone that has a different mentality, you don't have authority to do that. Only the Pope has authority. But considering the Pope is wrapped up in sexual abuse as well, why would he appoint someone any different? The thing that makes a priest or an abbot is their fundamental belief in Catholicism. If you want to have change, you need to appoint someone in a Catholic position that is not a Catholic. And it can't happen. So there's no point asking for resignations. The only thing you can do is to protect children by keeping them away from Christianity and the Catholic Church.